the notion that mobile devices, and whether it's an a phone or a tablet or a computer, was going to be part of instruction in K-12. This is something that we knew was going to happen. We always said that the classroom is not going anywhere, but in the classroom there's going to be technology, because, and I pitched this many times. When I went to school, the teacher asked a question. 2 or 3 kids raised their hand and only one answered. With Nearpod, with technology, that same use case, you have 30 kids answering the question. And that generates engagement, and that generates interest, and that provides an ability for the teacher to intervene. So the idea of devices as part of the education is something that we knew, and that was my pitch when I went to my little case, was not that little, to the schools. Right now, when you ask me, okay, the fact that everybody needs to be at home for a year, and then the schools were going to be shut down, and the remote classroom, well, that I didn't know it was going to happen in 2020. For sure I didn't. But I have some friends who say, oh, you're so lucky. Well, I was ready, right? We had the technology that was perfect for this situation. So, I think you always have to be somewhat lucky, but clearly we worked very, very hard, and we built something that was amazing. And then we were a little bit lucky as well, but I wouldn't say that luck was what created the exit or the success in the company by any means.
No, I agree 100%. A lot of people, when COVID came, saw the opportunity to create something like that, but you had already created it and over many years and validated it and built a team and built that legal infrastructure and everything, the funding background, which allowed you to have that powerful moment.
Yeah, if you're not in that space and then the pandemic hit, you can't do anything to basically win the use case in the classroom if you're not there yet. It's almost impossible.
Yeah, no, this was a winning story way before the pandemic started. The pandemic just sort of changed the speed at which you grew in 2020 and 2021. And in some ways, it probably accelerated your exit. Don't you think that maybe you would have waited a little bit more had the pandemic not come?
Well, we were ready. We thought about, we did an acquisition in 2019 of an amazing company in New York. And at some point we were going to continue to buy companies and build sort of a conglomerate of edtech companies that then we could, take public or operate or sell. But we had, before the pandemic, we were sure that we didn't want to stay for the long term, and just, it's different. I like to start things and push them at the beginning. When you have hundreds of employees, and it's more a corporation, right? And so we knew that we were going to exit. The timing, it's hard to say, right? We didn't have an inbound, so we went, because the way this starts is either you have an inbound or you start a process, right? And we started, when you say start a process, you hire somebody, usually an investment bank, that will help you find a buyer and will run the process. We intentionally started a process to sell in late 2020.
What's interesting, Feli, is that at some point you decided that you were going to exit instead of building this corporation. You clearly could have gone on to now be running a company that would be publicly traded or would be doing hundreds of millions, if not billions, in annual recurring revenue if you had continued growing organically and acquiring companies and so on. You could be sitting today as one of the leaders of a large company, just like the big technology companies of today have done. Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, Google, any of those. Do you ever regret that you exited as opposed to building a company like that?
No, I'm so happy that I made it. No, not at all. Not at all, because it look, at some point, your values and your personal desires and the type of the lifestyle that you want to have, is super important. At the end of the day, we're people, right? Living one life. So no, I do not regret by any means. I mean, anything. I think it was the right call. We designed it that way, so it's not that it had just happened. And now, and especially with, I mean, we're not going to go into politics, but with the current or the last few years, the political climate in the US and the polarization, it's really hard to manage a company in this space, especially in education, because there's a lot of politics. I mean, in the last, at the end of my tenure at Nearpod, I mean, we started thinking about, okay, there's a proposal for a red state or a blue state, because we were going to sort of approach this with cautious, right? So no, I don't regret at all what we've done, and also it's about just having different experience, right? So now I'm doing something completely different, which I enjoy, and I think that that's the beauty of life, right? You can diversify and do different things. It's not always the same thing.